All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be taking a look at getting ready for your oral examination. We're going to take a look at a couple of aspects, give you an overview here. The first aspect is opinions. How do we give them? And suggestions. How do we make them? So I'll teach you how to express your opinion. We'll teach you how to ask for someone's opinion. We'll teach you how to agree with someone's opinion. And I'll teach you how to disagree with someone's opinion. Now, when it comes to suggestions, it's similar. I'll teach you how to make suggestions, how to agree with someone's suggestion, and how to disagree with someone's suggestion. So, expressing your opinion. In my opinion, there are some aspects of your person that you cannot change. So if you look at the bold and the underlined text, that's our key phrase, in my opinion. That's a pretty basic one. In my view, the people of the United States need to recognize they live in a multipolar world, in my view. As far as I am concerned, there's no excuse for her behavior, as far as I am concerned. As far as I know, she's a very good pupil. To my mind, the most interesting thing about the statement is the fact that the author relies on subtlety to make his point, to my mind. I assume that reducing carbon emissions is a good thing to do, but I'm not convinced that the problem is as grave as many environmentalists would like us to believe. I assume, I believe, I think. Those are all basic ways of expressing your opinion. So let's move on to asking for someone's opinion. What do you think about the current geopolitical situation in Europe? What do you think about? What is your take on the increasing popularity of conservative parties? What is your take on something? How do you feel about the use of testosterone on children without their parents' knowledge? How do you feel about? Notice with think, it's what do you think about? But with feel, it is how do you feel about? What's your opinion on the veracity of the mainstream media? Wouldn't you say that the point is a bit exaggerated? Don't you think that the vaccine was developed too quickly? And when you want to agree with someone's opinion, someone has said something you think, yeah, I believe that too. I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more means just what it says. There is no possibility that you could be in greater agreement. That's a good point. I have to agree with you there. Absolutely. That's how I see it too. Exactly. And you're right. And when you disagree with someone's opinion, you say things like, I couldn't disagree more. That's just the opposite. I see your point, but in this case, I see your point does not mean that you agree with his point. It simply means that you understand it. And this but introduces a thought that is contrary to his point. I have to disagree with you there. No way. I'm not sure I can agree with you there. you might be right, but I still think, and then once again you tell him your opinion, which is contrary to his. I think you're mistaken there. And now we're talking about making suggestions. I suggest moving on to the next point. Now we have to be careful with this word suggest. It's a little bit tricky in English. I suggest moving on to the next point. I suggest that we move on to the next point. But do not say, I suggest to move on to the next point. That is not English. We've got a similar situation with propose. I propose moving on to the next point. I propose that we move on to the next point. But do not say, I propose to move on to the next point. That is not English. Or if you want to make your life easy, go with something like, why don't we move on to the next point? Why don't we? Those are all words that you learned probably within the first 4 months of learning English. Let's move on to the next point. Notice you need, if you're writing it, you need that apostrophe for let's because it stands like let us. Huh? Let's move on to the next point. How about moving on to the next point? And notice here after about, because about is a preposition, you cannot connect a verb to a preposition. You have to change that verb to its gerund form. You have to tack that ing form on. How about moving on to the next point? Now, you want to agree to someone's suggestion. Sounds good. You can also say, sounds good to me. Okay. That's a good idea. That's not a bad idea. Yes, we should do that. I couldn't agree more. And disagreeing to a suggestion? I'm not sure that's such a good idea. I'd rather not. Could we, and then make a counter suggestion, instead? For example, could we just talk about this other point instead? Let's not. And there you have it. Many phrases to help you when you do your oral Abitur.